Welcome to a Prevent Connect podcast, where we explore the prevention of violence against women. This is a project of the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
As you know, my name is Strong Oak. Some people call me Strong, some people call me Oak. So actually for short, I call my own self Oak. Anyway, I'm here with some members of the community that we're going to be talking about that live in Leiden Woods in the Housing and Urban Development community. They're co-presenting with me today. They finished training we did, 26-hour training on community leadership using Indigenous circle process. So I want to introduce, or they can introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, my name is James Bonds. Hi. Serious.
Hi, I'm Lilian.
Fully Lilian Garcia. Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about today is how we came to this place, right? And we're part of the Just Beginnings Collaborative, and they are an amazing funding stream for Visioning Bear. And I think our time with them will be over next year. So I want you to think about, whether you want to be the next group of people that may get funded through Just Beginnings Collaborative, because they are an incredible funding source that help build leadership and capacity, and they're kind of hands-on with you, and they're very supportive. They also fund individuals, so if you know some awesome individuals, that would be wonderful. So I put this slide up here because I wanted to point out that our Walking in Balance bystander curriculum that's based on Indigenous process expands the notion of Indigenous to include Africa, South and Central America. What we look at is all the different Indigenous communities and what they have in common. So I went to see Black Panther, and I was totally amazed by how that community reflected exactly what we were talking about, like revolutionary empathy, intergenerational wisdom. The women shall lead the way, and the ancestors are always with us. And so those are core concepts in the Walking in Balance with All Our Relations curriculum. So anyway, I wanted to point that out, and I wanted to let you know how we built this, because I think this is important. Visioning Bear Circle has a board of directors and it has a staff, and but actually the way we function, we're totally transparent. We do everything in circle. We use it for our decision making. And we developed the curriculum, really came from the community members. None of the African American or Indigenous folks in my area really wanted to go to a mainstream agency serving domestic and sexual violence survivors. So I worked like 10 years to find a way to get in, and then there was funding from RPE, and I got to identify the Indigenous community as the community I wanted to work with. So we had to have conversations with everyone, and when people began to take leadership of the process, when they began to be the ones to decide how we wanted to do the work, then they began to come and utilize what we had to offer at the agency. And then ultimately we spun off into our own thing, and we formed our own 501c3, a group of people without a lawyer, but we had legal help, support. But we wrote our own 501c3. We submitted it on October 29th of 2015 and received our 501c3 on February 10th of 2016. And look at where we are today. You're going to see, and I point this out as what can be done. And this was a community group that I was working with, who now are my supervisors because they sit on the board, but actually we do everything in circle. But we also put as much structural stuff into things as we could make it equitable. Like, I get paid the same as anybody doing any training. I don't get paid any more. Everybody gets paid the same. There's complete transparency. Everybody, there are no secrets, because in our curriculum we talk about secrets are deadly. Not only are they not good for survivors to keep, they're not good for gatekeepers to keep, either are stakeholders. It's really important that the people impacted by the work have a say and understand what's really going on. So here you see some folks from where James and Lily live. There's this program called the Music of Franklin program, where young people ages 7 to what?
No, they switched at 15.
Yeah, they come and they learn how to play the violin, and then they perform for their own community and also in public. And there's drumming and storytelling that goes with it, right? So, you know, if you do this work, it can't be 9 to 5. It can't be something that you do just because you get paid for it, and therefore if it's outside that window, you don't do the work. We partner with a lot of people doing anti-racism work in the community, and we do have some anti-racism funding. So what we did with that is actually train the staff of Music of Franklin around anti-racism, because there were some racist practices going on there. Also, the woman that is a staff working at Music of Franklin called me and told me about all the disclosures that were happening around sexual assaults and violence incidents and things from the students that were taking these classes. It was an after-school program, and she started talking to me how her wish was that folks like James and Lily would be able to take leadership, and that if you could get more people in the community to take some responsible leadership roles, that maybe it would become a safer place for the children. So I said, oh, we can fund that. That's right in our mission. So what we did is we paid the transportation, we paid for childcare, we actually even paid people to take the class because we value their time. So we had that funding, and we had the kind of funder that would support that kind of thinking. So we did that, and then we taught people about circle process. And these are the thing about the circle process is non-hierarchical. So if you're going to have an anti-racist structure, it can't have a hierarchy. So the circle, everyone has an equal say, not only just for talking, but it goes beyond that into leadership and having a voice. So these are kind of how we work to build, in general, the 4 relational aspects of circles. Some of you may have seen this before, but it's like introducing each other, building trust, and identifying what you're going to work on and seeking solutions. This is a perfect model for leadership. And then when we did our circles, what we did was we have an opening. We have a nice centerpiece. I brought stuff with me, but it didn't feel conducive to do that here. I would prefer to be in a circle. And we introduce the talking piece. We do a check-in and reflection round. This is important because between sessions, we audio tape that with a very, it's little tiny recorder that no one is bothered by and everyone gets permission to use. And it actually captures behavior change between sessions. Okay, gotcha. And then we introduce the topic of the day, and then we have what we call teaching rounds. And we have the closing question: what, if anything, moved you, transformed you, surprised you? And that's audio taped. And we have our evaluator sitting right here. This is Patrick Lemon. And he's been instrumental, along with Morgan Curtis, to help us come up with ways to make our sessions really go well. And the whole basis of the circle is, you know, the equality, the fairness. You don't have to fight for time. And then these are the module categories. I don't have to go through them all. They build on each other. The key thing I want you to know about that is the empathy part. You have to plan these modules, and we learned that organically, trial and error, that when people have been victimized, they have a very hard time having empathy for the people who hurt them. And the people who do harm have a very hard time, you know, having empathy for the ones that they harm. So the key thing is around developing respect, humility, compassion to build up to the empathy. But I want to, you know, I did some work in survivor communities and provider communities, and then when we worked, you know, with James and Lee in their community, it worked out very differently, where people had much more capacity for empathy, I found, in communities of color. Maybe it's because of everything we've been through, all the resilience that we've had to have to survive, but it's really, and I hope the two of you will talk about that. The only reason I'm talking so much right now is this is the part that, this is where they come in. So we can talk about what this circle process has been like. So you want to go?
I'm not sure. Hi, I'm Lilian again. Circle process. Well, we had, I've just had a 26-week training. It was great. Like, I've learned a lot from the circle. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I don't know. I just like it. It's like we help the community out. You know, we all come in. At first, I was nervous, and because you spoke about, like, pretty much everything, how we can help the community and stuff. And, I don't know, keeping our children safe, you know. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. I had so much to say. I'm sorry. And I don't know, pretty much just keeping everybody safe. And when we're in circle, well, when I first went, I wasn't too sure because obviously I don't trust people, a lot of people. But as I continued to go, then we all just got together, you know, we talked about how we can help the community because we have so much like racial stuff going on. And even me personally, my son getting bullied, you know, because of his race and everything. But we built a lot of trust, and we're working on like new projects on how we can do our own circle and teach others, you know, the way we're doing. I can't hear my big mouth. Yeah, so I feel like we're sticking together, like trying to help our kids with the bullying and stuff. There's a lot of stuff we do at Lilian Woods where we live, and it's a community. My daughter also attends the musical thing. You know, we also have like our garden, like people, you know, the kids can come plant stuff. We just try to keep the community together and help them out and stuff. And yeah, well, when I joined the circle, the second week of joining the circle, me and my son, he's half black, I'm Hispanic, and we're walking down, I don't know if it has to, well, of course it has something to do with the race, but, so I had just moved to Greenfield, Massachusetts, and we're walking next to the gas station, and so this truck comes by and pulls out a gun, and literally, like, says, you know, get the F out of town, you don't belong here. And to this day, like, my son remembers that. Like, he's the main one. Like, I'm legally blind, so, like, he's like, oh my God, he has a gun, you know. And for him to go through that, it's just too much, you know, like, 'cause he still remembers that. So when I was in the circle, they helped me out a lot, like, you know, like all the stuff that was going on. It's just a little nerve-wracking, but yeah, I don't know. The circle has just helped me out a lot. It's very therapeutic, should I say. Because I get to go over there and speak my mind, you know, I don't have to, about the race, about the bullying. Kids are going through too much, and I think they just help out a lot. I'm sorry, is that it? Is that 2 minutes?
Thank you. Hello, like I said, the circle does help me out a lot because when I first joined the circle, I was scared because I don't trust people. But I'm learning. I'm learning. I have trust issues myself, so when I talk to someone else about trusting people, I feed them my story. So then they get to open up more because they get to feel me more. And then, like I said, there's a lot of drugs, gangs inside our community. So like I said, me being a black person growing up, I was always around drugs, but I never touched it though. My mind was strong because I was always in the sports. So when I show the kids that, some of them believe me, but then when they get to know me, they get to see what I'm doing. They know I'm about healthy things. I'm about exercise. I'm about playing basketball. So I'm starting the basketball with the kids in the community now, boys and girls basketball teams. And then, like I said, I like for them to focus on that because get them into sports and off the streets. And even though the gangs are in the streets, like I said, you got to look at the gangs like saying, you're not going to break us. You're going to teach us to be stronger. You're going to teach us to stay together. You're going to teach us everything, though. And like I said, that's what I live by. That's what I grew up as. And like I said, like I tell the kids, the drugs are no good for your body. They're no good for your mind, and they're no good for your family, because drugs breaks families up. And then, like I said, when I teach kids that, they love that, though. And and about peer pressure. And like I tell the kids, when you're being bullied, it's about listen, stand up to the bullies, talk to the teachers, talk to the counselors. Don't be scared and shut down, and then let it grow in your mind, though. And like I said, because everybody's being bullied. Either way, everybody being bullied. And I say peer pressure is bad, though. And like I said, if you stay together, people will look at you as you're stronger, and you're not weak when you're by yourself. And that's how people pick on the weak people. And it's like I said, the circle taught me all that. And like I said, and even though I had it in me, but they made it stronger, though. And like I said, when we first met Strong Oak, it was like sitting there talking to. It's like when you talk to a stranger, it's like you want to hold back. Like I always held back. And like I said, when I talked to her about my personal issues, she was like, "Wow, I never knew that." Because I was always trying to pick a time to open it up. I couldn't just open up around certain people, because when you open up around certain people, you're scared that they're going to share your story, though. So, but once you get to trust them, and you say, okay, well, they might keep my story to themselves, though. And like I said, it's lovely, though. Like I said, I'm 51 years old, and like I said, I grew up with all this. I grew up with racial things. I'm from Louisiana. I grew up with all that. But like I said, I try to leave that life behind me. I try to leave the bad part behind me. And then look forward, though. When someone come at me and say negative things to me, I say thank you and I walk away. And then that's the positive side of me. Now, the negative side, I would say something, whatever, and go upside the head. But I'm beyond that, though. I grew, and when I see that, I say, and I thank myself. I do my self-talk. I say I thank myself for going beyond that. Like I said, at nighttime when I'm riding a bike, at nighttime, cars try to hit me. People try to throw things out the window at me, but like I said, I'm beyond it. I'm a grown man now, so I'm not a teenager no more. So I know what's better for me. I know what's bad for me. And like I said, I just strive forward, though. What's behind me in my past is behind me. I don't look back at nothing, though, because we're looking back is living backwards. So yeah, like I said, I look forward to life, and I love it, and I thank you.
So actually. All these things that you said, I was just thinking about how we could build trust in the circle the way we did it. The way we teach is kind of unusual, and it kind of came up organically, too. We don't even know which one of us whose idea it was. We sit in the four directions. We have teachers in the four directions, and we have people sitting between us. And, like, the person is encouraged to tell their story, like the content in a story way. Like to make that material really alive and live based on your own life experience, whatever it's comfortable to share, but it's always framed in the context of, say, we're talking about peace and justice. We're talking about respect. Like when you saw those modules up there, they're not like those aren't just buzzwords for us. Like if we're talking about generosity, we're talking about the need for bartering. We're talking about the need to change the distribution of wealth. When we talk about peace and justice, we're talking about the taking and stealing of the land and the othering of all people of color and women and the objectification of the environment. We're making linkages between the trauma to the environment and the structure that built that and the trauma to all of us that have been, experienced violence in some way. So we weave a different narrative of a structure that we hope will become integrated. And when that becomes integrated, it reflects back in the way you treat each other. So the goal really is for teaching the children about these things from the cradle until the grave, like all along the lifespan. This is, if everyone is sacred, if everyone is interdependent, if everything is equal to everything, if we're truly all equitable with each other, then you can't hurt that person because you see the spark in them. So teaching empathy is to be able to see yourself in another person. So when they were talking and they were sharing, I was thinking about all these other things. We had a woman in our group that actually got evicted for fighting, right? And she nonetheless finished the whole program, But in federal housing, you know, like whether it's on the resident and the resident, you know, on the res, or if it's in transitional housing, or if it's in HUD housing, there's a cookie cutter kind of way that the federal government deals with all these things. It's like if you get in a fight, if you get caught with drugs, your child even gets in a fight, if there's any kind of arrest, people lose their housing in addition to having to be accountable in a court situation. And the woman that was in our circle, she was completely accountable. But when I tell you why she did what she did, somebody in the space had been allowed to live there for a long period of time, was actually hitting a lot of children, right? She was hitting a lot of children, and nothing had been done to hold her accountable for that behavior, not to mention she may have been living in the wrong setting. She may have needed more of a place that dealt with mental health issues, and because we don't have those spaces and resources, here she was in this space where she was hurting people. So, like many parents here, maybe you might have gone over to the woman's house to maybe have a conversation. Like, if you have trouble with my child, talk to me. Don't take it out on my child. So when she went over to her house, it ended up in a physical fight. Both people got evicted. Then we found that the people that manage the property also go to the mediation, which is supposed to be neutral, right? So both people get evicted. So this woman had no reason to continue in our program, but she chose to continue in our program. And that same woman that I'm telling you about that had that trigger response and got into a fight with this other person, later on told us that one time she was in a convenience store and her child dropped some jelly beans on the floor and broke the glass. So she knew she had a right to pay with an EBT card, but the clerk in the store, a white woman, said you have to pay with cash. So ordinarily this woman would have gone off on that because that's just one of a long list of inequities that she has to endure in her life. She literally said, right, I saw all your face in the circle. And she said she ended up getting the manager to come to interface with that and say, look, and she confirmed she could use her EBT card. And it turned out to be someone she knew. Oh, you've got a job here. It was like really great. So, and that same woman, another more incredible incident involved where she saw this white man wearing a Confederate flag T-shirt. And she went up to him and she said, you know, why are you wearing that shirt? And he said, you don't have a right to ask me about that. Now, again, that's a big trigger, right? Instead, she said again, she said, I just saw your faces. She said, I really wanted to know what made him want to wear that shirt out in public. And she got him engaged in conversation. He said, you know, I wanted to establish that we were here first. And she could have gone off with that. I mean, I could have gone off with that. I mean, it's like... So instead, they got into a conversation. She began to talk about her family. He's talking about her family. I think both of those people left changed. That's the whole focus of this curriculum, is to engage those conversations where people feel safe enough to actually say what they really think and feel, and that they will engage and hear the story and flesh out the whole thing, and that people will get transformed and changed based on that. So I don't know if you want to pick this up and add to that, Lily? Oh. You get a lot of stories.
Well, she failed to say she wanted to pick up the jelly beans and throw it at him, but yeah, she thought about the circle and did it, and I guess it worked out. But also, we also had this other lady where her neighbor was like selling drugs, you know, up till like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and she wanted to call 911 and stuff like that. But then, you know, in our community, it's so small, like everybody talks, everybody knows each other. Like everybody knew she was a drug dealer, you know, and stuff like that. But also, you got to realize if she did call the cops, since she was speaking on it, then she would have got retaliated against. Because that's all they talked about, I want to beat your, you know, and this and that, this and that. So now she came to the circle and opened up, and that was pretty cool. But then we also had to get together and figure out what can she do with, instead of calling the police. I know it sounds bad, but if she, in our community, if she calls the police, everybody's going to know it was her. And they're all going to retaliate because they already started before she even called. So there's just a lot of stuff that comes up in circle, which is great though, because everybody, at first they didn't trust it, but now they do. So we could be in a conversation talking about empathy or kids and stuff, and all of a sudden it goes to, well, my next door neighbor did this and this and that, this and that. So what we're looking forward to is actually like a problem-solving type of circle, because we do sit down, and I like it because they listen to us. Like, one person speaks, everybody listens, no one interrupts, you know? You get your turn, so everybody goes one by one. So it's really cool. For some reason, everybody starts opening up more, the more, you know. I don't know, I think it's okay.
Thank you again. Like I said, problem solving is a major thing that we're trying to do with the kids now. Like I said, the kids got it. If the kids trust you, they're gonna talk to you. It's all about getting their respect, and it's all about telling them what you share with me is not gonna be shared with no one else. And that's what it's all. That's our focus right now. It's about the kids, though. It's about like I said, the kids in the gangs are bad. Like I said, we're trying to separate the two, though. Even in like you got the gangs in our projects. You got drug dealers in our projects, and it's all about, okay, you want to do your own bad thing, do your own bad thing over there. Just stay away from these kids over here. That's right. We're doing the basketball for the kids. Like I said, we're showing the kids something better. Leave the negative stuff alone and focus on positive stuff. Focus on school. Focus on your family and keeping the family together as one. And like I said, if the family stays together, they're stronger. So, and then like I said, the circle, like I said, I feel great though. Like when I go to circle, I call it adult time, because you can talk about anything you want. A little bit about anything you want, but it's about respecting each other's boundaries. It's not stepping on no one's toes. It's about listening, caring, and then giving proper feedback. It's all about proper feedback, proper and positive feedback. And like I said, when they come to us, we got to be accountable for what we say to them. So we always don't just talk the talk, walk the talk. It's all about showing them, teaching them and showing them a better way. And it's just like opening up. I'm nervous again. I'm nervous again.
It was great. But actually, there's a lot of serious content in the curriculum, around courage and being able to speak and looking at really, this has everything to do with preventing sexual assault, what I'm talking about here. It's all the intersections that you have to address. And I was thinking about one of the brilliant things that Lilian had said. We were looking at the fact that one of the mothers was dealing drugs, and one of the members of our circle's child was playing with, the children for the person that was dealing drugs. So in the way in which this conversation ensued, we were trying to think about, the mother was trying to problem solve, well, how can I want my child to be able to play with that child, for the child not to be kind of outcast because the mother was dealing drugs. But then we talked about, well, why is this woman dealing drugs? It's because maybe she's trying to make ends meet. And then not looking at the big picture, that if she gets caught, then she isn't being able to provide for her children. They're going to lose their housing. She's probably going to have her child removed. That's the other thing about these policies. They have a habit of fracturing families. And the whole mandated reporting thing in a community as close-knit as many of our communities are, makes it really hard for anyone to feel safe enough to come forward. So we're actually working to be those folks. And we're working on that from the place of being a safe place to come. We're training youth groups. There'll be youth actually teaching and learning the circle process and being able to have circle process with each other. And we're hoping that maybe next time I come here, they're here talking about the circles that they're doing and what's going on with that. What it is about, and I think this is a key piece I don't want to forget to tell you, is that for me, this has been hard in a sense. I've grown a lot from this process, because what I learned about 501c3s is that you have this, accountability, and you have this responsibility, and you have this money, right? I feel like this work needs to be done whether you get paid or not. I mean, this is our lives, these are our neighborhoods, these are our communities. And how to neutralize all of those disparities in your work. So what happens here is okay, we have a board, right, and we have a staff, and then we got transparency there, so the staff has a vote. And then we bring in the community, and we have community development meetings. Like, they just finished their training. When they start training this fall, they will be able to come to curriculum development meetings, and they will have an equal voice to the staff with how this is going. They will have their input. When we sit with our evaluation circles, we have an evaluator right here, Patrick Lemon, and he even has to wait for his turn to speak when we go around the circle. And some of my community members thought, oh, you know, they thought the evaluator was there and we were working for the evaluator. I said, oh no, we hired them, and it's up to us what we want to use from what they have to share. And they're completely respectful that way. And I think that you build, you know, the building trust means for providers need to take down the walls of distrust that exist when you have a mainstream focus. And what does that mean, you know, and the whole mandated reporting thing. Right now I'm on the Reliance Policy Group as part of my work, and what I'm doing is looking at the disproportionate harm that happens in marginalized communities with mandated reporting. We're going to take 3 years to look at that. And we're going to look at, you know, documenting all the different laws, how they carried out, what's their impact, surveying the field. You'll probably get stuff where you can give your input, and to be honest with that input, because that'll have a lot to do with making people really safe. And in the end, a public education for how this is really impacting families. And I don't know about you, when I worked on a hotline in my time, we would always warn people we were mandated reporters so that we wouldn't have to report. And then we always sat with families about talking with them so that they would self-report rather than use the mandated reporting as it is. But I'm thinking it's a public health issue. And I think that the circles, what I feel like is Indigenous people really have, and I'm including African American, Black, Latinx, everybody when I say this, we actually have the capacity to teach this. We're the ones that got it. Like this circle process and this egalitarian structure, this non-hierarchical way of living in our communities, where we have intergenerational respect, we have elders who are respected, we have clan mothers, we have people, our elders are, you know, our wisdom and our ancestors. We have a lot to give, and we need to structure our work around ways that we're not replicating the mainstream, which is the source of the violence. Even like I told you, I guess I want to go to the confessional and let you know that this has stretched me, because like I'm like, okay, where do we end and the community begins? I don't know where that line is, and I have funders I can talk to about that. It's because like we empower everybody to actually factor into our curriculum. And then we'll edit it every couple of years to include the wisdom we heard. So then it becomes owned by the community, and it becomes a storytelling going forward, and in a way that meets the needs of evaluation. Because now we're working at some kind of, with this man named Michael Quinn Patton, who's talking about principle-based evaluation that takes into account values and links it to behaviors. So we're in that kind of cutting edge place of looking at some new evaluation designs that may better serve people of color who are doing the kind of work we're doing. I mean, we talk about social change, but we're trying to change a culture just in Light Woods. And then we're gonna go to the next place, because it's you can replicate this. And then I wanna draw the connection between the reservations with their housing and with the HUD housing. It's the same way of dealing with the communities. It's the same way of making it so that people can't gather and bond together and keep each other safe without retaliation, without losing housing, without using anger inappropriately even to try to get somebody in trouble with their housing, or not talking about what's going on because of fear of losing children in housing. So what's safe about that? And what's happening to our children? So I'm going to pass it to you, James, for this.
Like I said, this is my first time living in a HUD place, and like I said, in our environment, it's like everybody's low income. So when everybody moved in there, they was all to themselves though. They was not talking to the next neighbor because everybody had issues. But then since me and Lily joined the community, we're out there. So when we walk down the street, people see us. They see us as positive people. They know we're gonna help them out. We're gonna aid them in whatever they need. And like I said, and then now we lived there for maybe a year now. When we first moved in there, everybody stayed in their house. They stayed in the house. And we're sitting in the window looking out and say, why is no one outside? I'm like, where's everybody at? But then little at a time, people come to our house. And then more people come to our house, more people come to our house. And then now you turn around a month later, now everybody's outside. I'm like, what? I'm like, wow. But then it's wonderful because now everybody's coming together. Like I said, they was all afraid because our community was a bad community. The bridges was broke. No one wanted to talk to their neighbors. Everybody had their doors closed. But now it's like we're building the bridge back. We're closing that gap. Like I said, the kids was bad. Now the kids are starting to be good now. Like I said, we got playgrounds now. We got basketball courts. We got everything in our community to keep our kids safe. And like I said, in our environment, like I said, we're only one, and there's maybe like 7 more. So like I said, when I start the basketball there, we're gonna reach out. We're starting at 1. We're gonna reach out. We're gonna reach out. And it's like once they see what we're doing, they respect us now. Because before last year, oh, Loudon Woods was bad. Loudon Woods was bad. Now people open up now and say, oh, they're new now. There are new people in there. There are new faces there. And then like I said, everybody's looking at us different when they looked at us bad. And that's something that we love now. It's like, there's no transportation there. Now we're starting to get transportation there. Like there's no transportation after 6 o'clock. No transportation on the weekend. No buses at all. But now all that's opened up again. So it's like, everybody's doing baby steps now. And everybody's appreciating it now. And it's like, wow, it took us this long to change. I said it's wonderful though, and like I said, we're teaching the kids about gardening. We're teaching them to respect the earth. Like I said, you get what you take out the earth. Like I said, if you respect the plants and you respect the flowers, and you respect everybody. And like if the kids bond together and plant things together, they respect each other. They just do. It's wonderful though. It's really wonderful.
Do you have something on you want to share right now? What?
Sure. Well, it's like he said, though. That's what I was just gonna get at, because when we first moved in, it was like, it was crazy. I guess I'm not used to that environment. We like, I was in the city and all this. You know, I come here, it's a whole different situation. But they did rebuild it. But at first, they looked at us like, when you look at the reviews, like where we lived, everything was bad. You know, like there was not one comment out of 500 comments. I don't think they had one good comment about the place. But when we moved in, it was built again from ground up, you know. And so, but they still look at us like we're the last tenants and stuff like that. And it's just, I don't know, it's just not right how they treat the kids, you know. The kids don't have nothing. They're just now starting. So when we started this circle, it helped a lot. Like we started telling people about it, and I think they think we know everything now, but it's okay. But they come up to us and they're like, can you help with this? Can you do that? Can you do that? You know, and it's like, I'm looking forward to like actually having our circle and one day, you know, being able to put 2 and 2 together. Should I?
I got just where things are going in. Oh, good. Let me bring this to you. Okay. Yeah, maybe we'll just open it up to questions at this point. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
So I work with a lot of kids that are in the juvenile system. I can gain their trust. That's not really the issue. But there's a gap between gaining their trust and gaining the parents. And I hear the both of you talk about how, you know, you had trust issues, and a lot of those neighborhoods, it's like what goes on in our house stays in our house. You don't take that out to anyone else. No one knows our business. And the kids will open up to you, but you can't get that from the parents. And so I was just wondering, like, between the two of you, what what got you? Like, what pulled you in and gained that trust?
Well, that's what really put me in. At first, I was like airy about it, but you know, in the circle, like little by little, that was my problem. Like, I don't want this coming out. You know, I don't want no one knowing my business. Bad enough, I'm in the same community that I'm probably complaining about or stuff like that. You know, but you know what I mean? It's like so. Eventually, well, at first we did it there, but eventually we moved it like out of the community, like to another place, like Virgin and Bear, you know, and stuff like that. And it helped out more because I didn't have to worry about people in, how should I say, in the community knowing my business. Like because in the circle, we all know each other. So whatever goes around, if that person decides to tell, then it's like, you know, it's a lot of trust issue. Like, I figured eventually I started like trusting, like, you know, and it was the same people. It wasn't like people kept coming in. So I think maybe the closeness, maybe like the, you know what I mean? Like the talking, eventually I started trusting, so.
Yeah, we don't let the group be more than 8 people at a time, so it's very deep conversation. It's geared towards very deep internal shift and how you look at things. And so just the process of the structure of it, I think, built that kind of trust. Am I right about that?
Yes. And like when we go to the parents, like when the parents see us, the parents know we're nice. So like I said, like when we walk down the street, some parents walk up to us and say, listen, my son's having trouble at the bus stop. Could you watch him at the bus stop? So like I say, we taking baby steps out there, and all like the doors are opening up out there. But like I said, it's in the country. We're from the city. We got bears out there. We got deers out there. Listen. We can walk to the. You can walk to the trash can, and you see a mama bear and a cub walking to the trash can with you, and we get. And it's to me it's different. To me, when I see a bear, I'm thinking cookout. I'm thinking cookout when I see a bear, though. I'm a deer. And then it's like, and then the skunks. There's white skunks. I never saw a white skunk before. And and they're looking right at you. They're not scared of you. So I'm not used to that dog. I'm like, oh, I'm out of here. I said, she was walking my dog one day, and a deer came by. My dog took off on her. My dog left it there. I'm like, well, they was coming to get me. That's what I was saying. But I don't know if the answer to the question or nothing, but yeah.
What I wanted to say is actually the structure is important. Yeah. The circle itself is so sharing. Everybody has to wait their turn to speak. Like the whole point of the circle is to listen 90% of the time, talk 10. And really listen to what another person is saying. And when you begin to develop the trust and people begin to share, then it becomes I'll call it a sacred thing to hold that trust. And I would say that, you know, it's amazing to me to hear that people are already coming to you. The children themselves had a quality child care experience. We had a member of our board and a young person from the community. They were having their own circles while we were having ours. And like they were having quality time. So it was not just child care as in make sure, you know, it wasn't just, it was engagement. And like they were really having an experience. Plus they were seeing their parents also, you know, being invested in taking responsibility for keeping them safe. I think the key too was talking about children's safety and not about ending childhood sexual assault, which is actually the funding. But we took the prism of children's safety, and that allows for everyone to feel comfortable to come to that circle. I don't know, would you have come if I called it, you know, ending childhood sexual assault?
I'd have closed my door.
That's what I thought. But children's safety, of course, encompasses keeping children safe from sexual assault. And like, I think it's better to name where you're going and what you want than to focus it on a problem. You know, like even saying you're ending it is you're naming the problem over and over and over again. And this way, what we also thought, I think it was your idea, Lily, to have a community meeting where we invited everyone in the community to come and talk about the drug abuse that was going on, so that anyone could come to that circle. We were actually hoping some of the people that were doing that would come to the circle and sit and listen, you know, rather than to have anyone singled out and then engage the whole community in addressing the issue. and going beyond the issue as to, well, then, you know, how people are making ends meet or what's going on, and, you know, how to keep people safe.
Thank you so much. Just really the most inspiring thing I've been to the whole friggin' time I've been here. So really appreciate it. I have 2 questions. I'm interested if you could talk a little bit more about like what you just touched on, because as I'm hearing this, I'm like, cool, when's the part when the Black and brown people gather and rise up against white supremacy? Because it sounds like that's the direction that we're heading in. That's really exciting to me about like the deep organizing that can happen, and like the conversations around like how do we make systemic change so that our neighbor doesn't have to be selling drugs. And then my other question is around like the basketball situation, and I'm just thinking about like the trust that can be broken on sports teams from adults towards children, and like sexual assault and sexual violence that can come up in like those types of I don't know, what, like configurations of people, you know what I'm saying? So like, how are you going to have conversations with the adults and the children that are like that are doing the music programs and et cetera? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. With the basketball, it's like once I gain that trust, and then focus on the basketball, and then we'll sit down and talk. I talked to them about, okay, is something bothering you? And like I said, I get them once I get the kids to open up, and the kids see the other kids open it up, they won't be afraid though. So that's what I'm trying to do, the basketball. And like I said, gain their trust, have them work on their health, and have them do little things in the community to help and assist everybody too. And then like I said, when we work on the kids, we got adults too that want to get involved too. But like I said, let's start fresh, let's start little. And if the adults want to sit down, let's listen what they got to say, and let's open the door. And then it's all about bring positive to the table. Like I said, if you come positive. If you don't come negative at all, because it's not going to be a negative environment though. And like I said, if you're going to talk around the kids, talk around the kids with respect. Respect the kids, no swearing, and nothing like that though. And like I said, I'm revolved around no drinking around the kids. Like I said, no drinking, no drugs around the kids. If you're going to do everything way over there where the kids can't see you. That's what the whole thing about. So I would say, get the kids away from all that though. But I'm sorry.
I was just thinking about, you know, keeping people safe. If you see that someone is unsafe, right, and it's really, I feel the community can come up with solutions or responses to that. Like I think that bringing it to safe adults, and it may be, you know, bringing it to Visioning Bear. And we're skilled in those things. And like, actually what I really would hope is that sometimes you can see that someone's having trouble when they're young. And like at that time, when you can provide love and care to that person and find out what's going on for them and to be there for them. If you can do that, that's way better than for someone to get older and, you know, get the stigma out of it. You know, I'm having problems and I need some help. To make it so someone would feel safe to come to you. Like we're having Ignacio Rivera come to our community, and we're going to have conversations with the folks, you know, with the caregivers and with the young people, where they will have, like, we're going to have workshops for both communities, right? But then we're going to have a circle where the parents are in a circle with the young people on the outside, and talking about what their concerns are, talking around sexual issues and gender identification and those kind of, you know, complicated issues with their children, and the young people they care about. And in some cases, you might be the one that people come to, like a cousin or a niece or a nephew may be coming to you instead of their parent. So it's like anyone who's in a caregiving role. And then having the young people sit in a circle where the parents are on the outside, then they're hearing what the young people's needs are, and then having a joint circle where then there can be a conversation. So we need to have like creative ways of dealing with these issues to make it so that there are communications, intergenerational communications that are real. And you know, when I think about this stuff, I'm thinking about, you know, all the things that weren't there. I'm Mi'kmaq, right? And my father was in a resident boarding school, and he was sexually abused himself. So he was, sexually assaulted myself and my sister, right? And I remember not talking to anyone and not feeling I could go anywhere, and because worse would happen for my family if I did. And like I had assessed the power dynamic, and I kind of looked at, well, what will people really do if I say anything? And then I actually went, I tell this story because this is what I don't want to see happen for young people now. And then what I did was I knew where my father kept his shotguns, I knew where the ammunition was, and I remember in my mind drawing a line. If he crosses this line, then I'm using these things. And I'll be okay going to jail. That's what I thought. I said, if it means that the family's safe, then I'm willing to go to jail. And I know that there's young people thinking like that. What I'm saying is a reality in America today. And also a reality in America today is people are getting emboldened to be more violent since this administration has come in. And there's, Lily's son has been pulled out, what's he, 7 years old? 8? He got pulled out into the woods, someone putting him in a vulnerable and, compromising kind of situation. It's like to be a parent with all this going on, it's extreme vigilance all the time. And the self-care component is really important. That's the other thing I noticed with the circles is people begin to do more self-care. People are spending more time talking with their children than they did before. And putting aside doing some other thing like work. Someone said they didn't do their taxes and they spend the time talking with their children. But I think that people make all these excuses as to how not to spend time with your children. When I went to Washoe and talked to the community there in Wind River, what I heard is that a lot of the parents were really kind of depressed. And so they weren't really there, to talk with young people, and young people were just not having the kind of mentoring that you really want them to have. So we want to be those mentors, because it's our job, right? It's our job to, and Lilian and James are just incredible mentors, and it's really great to see that people are looking to you that way. Oh, another question.
Yeah, I have a few, but most of the answers are going to be pretty short. For Lily, right? And James. So I don't know if I missed it at the beginning. I'm sorry if I did, but how did you find the circle, or how did the circle find you? And kind of talk a little about that. And then I was interested in how long you've been doing circle, and if you've noticed any change in your role as a participant in the circle. And then maybe just a little bit about, I'm really interested in the conflict resolution and dispute process and how that turned into like community accountability or sort of like restorative justice outside of the traditional justice system.
Oh, how I found the circle. I was actually, they have like a community room, like an office where we live, and I had went up there to sign my kid up for the violin classes. And at the same time, they was in a circle, and I'm like, what are they doing? And of course I was being nosy and got in there, and this guy, Scott, was actually, he's like, oh, we did the circle thing. And I'm like, oh, let's try it, And we sat down, and that's pretty much how I got to know them. But then as time started, then we started getting people to go and do all kinds of stuff. About the conflicts, yeah. So far, we just working on trying to get our group, and, because so many people have so many problems out there. And I noticed that even in the group, just out of 8 people, there's so many problems going on. It's like, can you imagine the whole community doing circles? So it's a progress, but we're working on it.
I would say my circle is like we volunteer at the food pantry in our community. So that's when people really started seeing us, started talking to us. They gained our trust. Oh, they're nice people. They do this. So as we communicate, a friend of ours, the music teacher, she came to us and asked us, would we like to do this? And I guess she came to Strong Oak and told Strong Oak, I got 2 people that would love to jump and go get in a circle with you. And then that's how we met. And then since then we grew a bond. It's like we're like what did you call us? Bonnie and Clyde right now. We're like Bonnie and Clyde right now. It's like,
The same.
oh yes, it's so funny. Yes, it's so funny. It's like that. That's when I first went there. Yeah, when I first went there, I'm like, okay, there are a bunch of strange people over there. I'm like, okay, I'm not coming back tomorrow. I kept telling myself, I'm not gonna come back. I'm not gonna come back. But then the more I said that to myself, I'm sat there and say, listen. And then I'm thinking about the next day is coming on, and then when I'm looking outside, I see two people arguing. So me being myself, like I said, I don't like people arguing. I don't like people fighting. So I go inside and intervene. I'm sitting there and say, how y'all doing? What's going on? I'm saying, and then they told me what's going on. I'm say, wow, y'all fighting over something stupid? You arguing for something stupid? And then I walk away, and then now they're friends. And then it's like me when I see people fighting. Like I said, when I see kids fighting over basketball, I go up to them and say, "What's wrong? Why y'all doing this?" Well, he got the ball. He don't want to play the ball. I said, listen, play together, be as one. I'm saying, have fun, enjoy yourself. And it's like, and then it's like this silly things I'm walking across, and then the circle taught me all that, saying like, listen. When you see two people doing bad things, just try to intervene, do the best you can. Sometimes it's gonna be positive, sometimes it's gonna be negative, but just try to help though. And then to me, it's going, I go outside, I expect whatever. I don't go outside and focus on, okay, I'm going to the store. Okay, but if I go to the store, like I said, when I go to the store is like 2 miles away. It's at nighttime. I drive my bike. It's a white neighborhood. It's a white town. They don't like blacks or Hispanics out there though. When I walk on the street, I'm hearing people call me N-word, do this, whatever. But like I said, I'm going, man, whatever. Leave me alone, whatever. I keep it moving. Then they look at me and they say, well, wow, we're not affecting them. So they walk off though. So to me, like I said, I'm proud because I'm here now. I could have been, like I said, I could be negative and do stupid stuff. But then, like I said, everything don't require a reaction. So I tell myself that though. And like I said, and it's all self-talk. It's like the things we go through, you already know. But then, like I said, even though you already know, you know right from wrong, but then you always lean. You always lean. But I'm saying these are stand for it and have fun and enjoy the kids. But I'm about the kids now. It's all about the kids though. Like the kids are small. Like I said, they don't got the mind of their own. They're followers, and you don't want them to be a follower. You want them to be a leader. And that's my whole thing. That's like I said, it's just a leadership thing that we're doing now, and I love it though. I'm sorry. Another question, please. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Jyoti. I don't even know where to start because I think what you all are doing is really needed and it sounds just really amazing. I actually, in the community that I live in, I'm a part of a mutual aid effort. And, it's been about actually a year and we've been visible. It's been every weekend on Sundays where, really when we started out, it was, I think very similar where we just wanted people to come out of their doors and get to know their neighbor. The idea was really building a process for, relationship building through collective work. And so what we've done is that we have like a weekly distribution of organic fruits and vegetables, clothing, diapers to meet the basic needs in the community. And through that, people are slowly coming out and really engaging. And also, it's really a big pushback against gentrification and policing. I think what you all are doing is very challenging. I mean, I experienced that in just the neighborhood that I live in. Some of the challenges that I want to name, and I'm just kind of wanting to hear, your feedback on it and what you've experienced is, one, I think definitely engaging men. In our community, it's been actually mostly Black and brown women and also children, mostly female children that have come out to sustain this effort. I think also, the other part of it is when issues of like domestic violence or, eviction or detention, when those issues come up, it's really difficult to break the silence around it. And then the other part of it is that how do we really create a community-based response, right? So even just someone in the community, her children's father does not provide financial support, right? So we want to engage him directly and identify what the barriers are to get them to work together. We have someone else where her male partner is assaulting her, right? And now DCFS is involved. So what we want to think about doing is how do we keep the police out? And also, as far as DCFS, they're already there, right? But really, how do we intervene to say that we want to play that role? You know, so I'm just wondering, like, for you all, when these issues come up, and then also getting men to step up. I can't name, honestly, one man in the community that has consistently stepped up to even distribute vegetables in the community. So.
Yeah, I think that having males involved is really important. To address your issue, I wanted to say that when Visioning Bear started, we kind of took over the building we were in. We started out in a mainstream agency, and when the community started realizing it had power to decide, and when it had buy-in into how the things were going to look, then we didn't have any trouble. Like, we built a community drum. We began to take over the whole space on weekends, and we began to, gather in community, because we had natural places where we were doing that. In fact, we worked in the intertribal community in our area, and we would drum at events, and we would be very visible, and then we would have our circles and do our work and plot out. Like when we got our goals, when we got our RPE money, this is when we first began. When we got our goals, it was the community that formed the goals. I brought the paperwork to the community. The community decided what we wanted to do. Then we wrote and sent it in, and then when they wanted us to tweak it, we edited it together. So once people realized that this was their own thing, I couldn't keep people. I was stunned. People wanted more time. We began meeting twice a month for the whole day. And now we're mentoring and bringing what we did. I don't know, in Lighten Woods, I'm expecting down the way they won't really need us anymore. They'll be doing the work inside their own community. What we have is conflict resolution skills, to teaching of the circles to resolve those things. I'm on the Restorative Justice Board, the first ever advisory committee, the governor's office in Massachusetts. And also being credible, like how we really got started is we always did what we said we were going to do. We kept children together and families together. Like I used to fly by the seat of your pants. Like I remember people in my community coming to me because they had to go to court and children taken out by DCF. Department of Children and Families. So I showed up at the triad meeting or at the courthouse, and they said, well, I said, you can't take a child out of this home and put them in foster care. They're going in a white foster home. They're going to lose their culture. And she said, well, what can you do about it? I said, we'll provide a circle of support around the family. And I said, oh my God, I just committed my group to providing circles of support. But they were more than happy to do it. And we actually visited people in prison. And really, I remember getting a stunning phone call from, the district attorney's office saying, this person has really good potential. Would your community be willing to come? And we did that. We went into the prison every day. This person now is somebody, I got to say that, he was seen, you know how you can be identified in your community as a person that makes trouble, and then pretty soon you can't walk around without being seen this way? He was one such person, and now he's been the longest time out of jail. He's really turned his life around, and he's drug and alcohol free, and it took his traditions to get him there, and support from his community when he slipped. So we were talking about making room for people to slip in the community without, making it so they can no longer participate. Like if we have people in circle who have been through a few things, that's who we want, leading in our circle. People who know what it's like. We would like to have some people being re-entered into the community from the prison system to mentor young people and not go in because they can actually talk from that place, right? And, there's just far too many people of color with the school to prison pipeline. So the other piece is like, you know, when I say about mentoring that, like when people get in trouble with the school system because their children got into trouble just from all the stuff they have to deal with, what we want is for the people to go in like a posse, like not alone. Like the people, the circle will be there to advocate and to bring circles into the school system so that they can begin to teach, do listening rather than punitive action, and to you know, really involve people. This works. I mean, you know, like when young people get a place where they can learn circle process and take over, they will do their own climate change in the school. And like they don't need, they have the skills. And it's really incredibly wise what young people have to say. So I'm just, and you know, you can speak a lot about the school system, Lily, because what you've been going through, you know, with your son.
Oh, I can go on forever with that. Nah, just a lot. I went through a lot with my son. Like, since we moved in here, first they suspended him for 5 days saying that he hit a kid. And I'm like, what do you mean? You know, like, there's a camera right on the school bus, and my son's crying, like, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. So I'm like, you know, let me go up to school and check. We checked the camera, and it clearly showed it wasn't my son at all. My son wasn't even sitting nowhere next to it, so I go back to the bus driver. You know, first I tell him, you just suspend him without even checking the camera. And second, the bus driver is still telling me, yeah, he did. I seen him personally, this, and I'm like, the camera's right there. Like, you can clearly see it's not my son. Doesn't, you know, and no, to this day, anyway, he ended up getting fired. And come to find out, they did it again. They blamed him for something else. The kid come out bleeding. He's like, oh, it was Jalil, you know? And I'm like, what? And he's like, I didn't do it. Check the camera again. It wasn't him. I'm like, so the circle helped a lot. There was this lady in the circle, and she actually gave me, like, who to call. And so it actually worked out because it felt like they were just on him. I don't know if it was because of the color of his skin, you know, and I'm pretty sure it was. But just a whole bunch of things, like, I can't wait to get, like, a kids' circle started. Like, they have so much to say. Like, my son probably knows more than I do. I'm telling you, he's been through so much within just a year. So at first he loved school, and now he's like, no, I don't want to go to school. They blame me for this. They blame me for that. They won't even talk about the Rosa Parks. He's like, why do I got to sit in the back of the bus? You know, and he's like, I'm not sitting in the back of the bus. And so he brought that on, and we're all, like, laughing. But it's a serious issue. Like, I'm just looking forward to, especially the kids' session, like, because they just tell it all. Like, my daughter's 14, and if you look at what her and her friends, like, go to, transgender and rape, they talk about all that. And my kids are the type that they tell me everything. Like, I don't know where that came from, but everything. And it's like, I can't wait. I'm just looking forward to the kids and, you know, how they can just speak up and talk and let it all out, because they sure will.
I was just thinking, finding leaders like James and Lilian is really important. Natural leaders in the community, you know, and then building upon other leadership so that they're not alone in the community doing this work, that there are other caregivers. And we're thinking these will spin off into other, there are more, there's Oak Court and Greenfield Gardens, there's other communities right nearby where I'm just hoping that you'll want to go and mentor people there in the circle process. So the thing about the circles is the circle process is not a hard thing to teach, but it's a hard thing to be. It's a way of life, not just a class you take, and it also, listening is really tough. I mean, think about it, not thinking about what you're going to say when someone else is talking, and really, really building on your capacity to really listen to them, and fully. So it's almost like looking in someone's heart and seeing what's behind those words. What are they really feeling and thinking? And when people realize they're really being seen and heard, they'll tell you. People feel comfortable to say more because they're really being heard. And isn't that all any of us ever really wants? Especially our young people want to be heard. And you get really disempowered quite a lot, and assumed, a lot of decisions get made for young people that they can easily make themselves. And probably even better, because I think we need to be talking with each other, because what we have, like I'm saying this because I'm getting, I'm an elder now. I'm actually a grandmother in my community with a big G. What I notice as my brain ages is that I have like a really ability to integrate a lot of information, but young people get to remember the here and right now kind of stuff. And we need to be talking to each other, because then the wisdom gets passed back and forth, because we have a pattern that life changes, but there's a pattern of response that works and doesn't work. And we can share what worked for us and what didn't. And then we can learn what wouldn't work now, because things are really different. And through those conversations, we could really figure out what's best, how best to support negotiating through this world that we're living in right now. Because when I'm looking around here and there's some young folks I'm seeing, I'm really excited, because you're the ones that are going to make this change. And I want for you to have all the support you need in doing it. And that we're responsible to you for that. We're accountable to you for the world you have. And when we all heal, we not only heal us, we heal everyone who went before us. Everyone who went through a lot for us to be here, who went through genocide, who went through, slavery, who went through all these things. My healing is wrapped up with them. And we're the reason that they, we survive for. When we heal, they heal. There's really no such thing as time. I know a lot of people know that. A lot of people of color really know that. There's no such thing as time. It's just it's something that we do so we can meet each other in different places, right? And make believe we have a linear world, but really there is no such thing as time. And it's all happening at once. They actually prove all these things. What metaphysics say gets proven scientifically. There are actually folds in space where you could revisit the past. So thank God we're not trying to do that, because we would really mess it up, I think. But anyway, does anyone have any other questions?
Thank you. Sorry. This is really wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. So I have had a little bit of circle keeper training, and I have primarily been facilitating circles on college campuses with Title IX teams and campus security and counselors and people who are feeling very burnout doing the work of preventing and intervening in sexual violence on college campuses. And I asked this question during my own training and didn't get an answer that I was unhappy with, but I'm just interested in more feedback about it, about the role of non-Black Indigenous people of color facilitating circles. Because this feels like a very sacred gift, and I feel honored to have attended a training, learning about circle and the roots of circle and being able to facilitate it. But that doesn't stop me from feeling a little bit insecure as a white person who, going back to the question about dismantling white supremacy and wanting to be able to give as much of that power back to Black and brown communities as possible, just wondering what the best way for white people to facilitate this in a way that honors the process without it being appropriation, without it being co-opted, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, at Vision Bear, we use the term re-indigenation now, because we feel that everybody, if they went back to their original roots, belonged to a tribe or a clan. The problem is, to me, white America has forgotten that. What I feel as an Indigenous person, I feel like, because these belong to us, these practices are Indigenous, First Nation practices, and people from the First Nations came here to teach it, and then it gets misused. And I'll tell you, a big way it gets misused is they don't want to use it for sexual violence and domestic violence. When the people who came here said, we solved this in our communities, we're not having these issues in our communities because we went back to our traditions. I feel that it's respectful. I want you to use circle. The reason I want you to use circle is because it's a natural, non-hierarchical form. What you can do is respectfully, like just the fact you asked this question, there are Indigenous people that you can plug into. There are people of color doing this work. Like if you acknowledge where you learn it from and you go to it with your heart because you want to see a change, I think we all need to go back to building community in circles, in our non-hierarchical structures, in circle process. So I don't know, I mean, there's only 4/10 left of Native peoples. I don't really want us to be the only ones. I really want, you know, for everyone to begin to decolonize or re-indigenize, I'd rather call it. Because re-indigenation is a more inclusive term. It implies that I know that your roots, if you went back far enough, you would find that you had people who believed in nature, who had respect for nature, had relationship with the land, who really wouldn't think of hurting the land, let alone the person, that you go back and you have that. You know, like in Ireland, Western Ireland, there are places that's Celtic traditions, nature-based, treating the world like it isn't for you to use, but for you to be in relation with. So it's really all about building relationships with every single living thing and being humble about it. Like, I think there are trees I know that are wiser than me, because when I got my name from when I did my Hanblicha, I was by a large white oak tree, and that tree taught me more about love than anything. It loved me, and as a species, I felt that love from that tree, so I really felt blessed when I got named for that tree, when I was finished.
So, I guess the first thing I wanted to say was I really appreciate the term re-indigenized versus decolonized. For one, headed towards something and seeing the vision of that versus running from this is a big perspective change. And then I don't know if I'm going to do this. And that is that I want to take a moment to just give you gratitude and appreciation for your life work. As an elder, I think it's important as Indigenous people that I acknowledge you and give you respect and show you love and gratitude for the many, many years that you've put forth on our behalf. To hear you speak not just once, but twice, and to hold the space for so many hurt hearts, hurt homes, and to come with an open heart of loving, caring ways as a true matriarchal leader, elder. I just wanted to say that to you, to say thank you. Ta'a.
Yeah. Rich. Wow. Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. I want to say that I haven't talked about ceremony at all, but I think that there are some forms of healing that some of us carry that is in our DNA. We talk about that a lot, and we need ceremony and for that. It's like you have to let it go to something bigger than yourself. And for me, I'm grateful for all the ancestors that have these sacred ceremonies that the government tried to keep us from using. And like those ceremonies have been the biggest healing thing for me, because I realized I couldn't do these things all by myself. I needed ceremony. And ceremony requires that you put a lot of work into the ceremony. You have to be serious about your healing and your recognition that you need the healing, like acknowledging you need the healing, and then being willing to have the courage to do it. I know, like a lot of survivors, some of you are, that you are afraid that really the Creator will think of you as wanting. But there is nothing like the Creator speaking to your heart for your healing. Like for me, I feel blessed and hope that all the elders are here for the young people, and I want to be one of those for the young people. And I want that for all of you, to be good elders to the young people. So I'm kind of blown away here, but thank you so much. It's hard to talk about spirituality in this work, but I know I went to support somebody at a Sundance, and I realized, I said, oh my God, pain that comes up that you don't know is there. It comes up, it's like you have this core where it lives, and you think it's not there, and then one day it pops up and you say, oh my God, I haven't finished this right. But I find that by going to ceremony and undergoing some discipline around that I can see that shifting inside of myself. So I just passed that on. So we have 5 minutes left, and somebody may have something that they need to say. I want to say about the evaluation that we're doing. And Patrick, I would love for you to be able to talk about what it's been, what you see, in the way only you could do it.
Wow. Coming in at this moment feels particularly awkward. I think it was going to be awkward at any point. I'm clearly identify as a white man, and I bring a lot of baggage with me as a result of that, and trying to use mainstream models for evaluating a program feels particularly inappropriate, right? And so as Strong Oak talked about developing the curriculum, we did a lot of trial and error, and I have to say a lot more error than trial. But thankfully, through the circle process and through conversations and through very patient teaching from Strong Oak and her colleagues, I feel like we've really managed to develop ways of hearing community voices and hearing people able to talk about the transformations that they're going through and that they're seeing around them. And that's what we're capturing. So clearly, we're not doing randomized control trials, right? But we're doing some really interesting and I think fun qualitative evaluation that's really focusing on using the circles to describe the effect of the circles. So it's kind of this meta process that's going amazingly well. It's still in process. We don't have reportable results, but I feel like we're very clear that we're showing real change. I think the biggest challenge we're facing is that we don't have the capacity to measure the depth of the change. And so that's what we're trying to do. So we keep trying new things. Maybe this will capture more of it, because we keep feeling like we know more is happening even than what we're seeing, even while we're seeing pretty incredible results and conversations that people are saying they've never been able to have before. And that's where I think change, that's what we're seeing.
So one of the things I'm interested in is instructional design for marginalized group. When it comes to looking at grantors for those things, and them pushing their ideology on that population, how do y'all maneuver through that? short
When I figure that out, I'll let you know. So, right, we have 1 minute, so I'm going to say very quickly, I don't think we have an answer for that yet, except that the more conversation we have about it, the more we open up cracks in the mainstream framing of what good evaluation looks like. And so what I've been doing, because I work on evaluation with a number of programs, is I'm bringing what I'm learning here into mainstream programs and encouraging them to start doing the same reporting. And that's, I think, changing some of those conversations. Very slow, and I don't think it's enough, but it's what I have so far. Thanks.
How can we find your information?
Well, talk to me, and there are pamphlets for Visioning Bear back there.
Thank you for listening to this Prevent Connect podcast. Prevent Connect is a project of the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault, with funding from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The views presented on Prevent Connect are not necessarily the views of the United States government, the CDC, or CalCASA. To learn more about Prevent Connect, visit www.preventconnect.org. For more information about CalCASA's mission, or to show your support, visit calcasa.org. That's CalCasa.org.